And welcome to ADHD-friendly. I am Patty. I am an ADHD and executive functions coach, and I welcome you to this episode of ADHD-friendly. This is episode 216, and today I'm going to be talking about a surprise that I've planned. I'm also going to talk about how ADHD-friendly is here to support you to meet your brain where it is so that you can build from there and reach your goals. And then our main topic today is an ADHD guide to small talk, something a lot of us tend to struggle with. If you would like more support than this podcast and YouTube channel can offer, I invite you to check out my membership. It is available to join and see if it would meet your needs to struggle less and thrive more. You can get more information at adhdfriendly.m as in Michael, N as in Nancy, .co, not C-O-M, I've been saying that wrong for so long, so I feel really badly. I didn't realize it was a C-O instead of a C-O-M. All right, on to a celebration. So I'm going to say this quietly because my husband is in the next room, but I have been working with my kids. I have 4 kids, and 2 of them live on the East Coast, and we're in Chicago. So they are flying in exactly 48 hours from now to surprise him for his birthday. He has no idea. It's the day before Thanksgiving. As you guys know, if you're regular listeners, I record these 2 weeks in advance, and the flights are booked. As far as I can tell, he has no idea because he actually bought tickets to go see a basketball game with our son that lives here on his birthday, which makes me really happy because that tells me he does not know. So if we pull this off, it will be pretty close to a miracle because all of my kiddos and I are impacted by ADHD. We tend to be impulsive, we forget, we might say something. My daughter did say something, but he didn't seem to hear it. So I think we're still in the clear, and I really want to celebrate that we, by all appearances, are pulling this off, and it's just creating so much sparkle to this week. So I'm super excited. All right, so now to what I purchased this week. Each week I update what I have spent money on, specifically impulsively. So I don't talk about my food and necessary purchases, just things that I'm buying impulsively. And what I bought this week is a drip coffee maker because number one, we're going to have more company, and those pods and K-cups are getting more and more expensive. So I thought, right, I'm going to go back to drip coffee and just make like a big pot of coffee for everyone. And also we don't have to wait for like one person at a time to brew coffee, which can get kind of old when there's multiple people waiting for coffee. So I picked a Cuisinart Brew Central Plus 14-cup programmable coffee maker. It was on sale for Thanksgiving. So instead of $64.99, I got it for $44.99. And as exciting as that was, when I was getting something out of the garage, I found my drip coffee maker, which I thought I had lost or donated. I could not find it. So I found mine, which is another surprise. A little frustrating that I didn't find it until after I ordered this coffee maker, but this one is still on its way. I haven't received it yet, so it's going back. So I'll get that money back. So it was kind of I didn't need it, I wanted it, but I did do some research I want to share. So even though I'm not keeping that coffee maker, I found my drip one. I spent, a good amount of time cleaning it all up because it was just really dusty from being out in the garage. And we've now had drip coffee from that for the last 2 mornings, and it is delicious. I'm super excited. So I did a little research to motivate me to even go back to drip coffee. And here's what I found. Right now, K-cups, if you're buying those for a Keurig type machine, they are running about 50 cents each. And if you have multiple coffee drinkers in your house, or you drink multiple cups a day, that can really add up. If you have an espresso maker, which we have, but we've stopped buying those pods in the last 4 to 6 months because they are running about $1.40 each on Nespresso.com. So if you just drink 2 cups a day, every month you're spending $84 just on Nespresso pods, which when I did the math, I was like, yeah, there's a reason I stopped buying those. I just felt like every time I made a cup of coffee, I was like aware of it. And I don't want to be thinking that hard about my coffee. Where if you're using grounds, like either coffee beans that you're grinding yourself or you're buying coffee in ground form, it's about 35 cents for a cup of coffee, which ends up being about $21 a month. So I really wanted an option for company for Christmas. All of us will be here and everyone, five of us drink coffee. So I just thought, let's make this easier, more budget friendly, but also easier for people to just be over and, just be able to pour a cup whenever you want it. And it just frees up that wallet a little bit more, saving a little bit of money. So I just wanted to share that. So even though I didn't end up buying the coffee maker, or I did, I'm going to be returning it. It's still super sparkly to have drip coffee again. But I did want to share, I found this guy at Costco. So I'm going to hold it up because I did a bit of research before. And this is what I ordered. Like I said, it'll be going back. But as of when I recording this, it was going to be on sale through November 30th. I don't know if that was going to get extended. It was regularly $64.99, which was still cheaper than I found it anywhere else. So looked like a good one, but I did not try it out because it's going to go back. All right, now for my tip for this week. And this month, I am really sharing the information on my membership. I created the membership as an affordable, interactive community that is there to help meet you where you are so that you are thriving more and struggling less. I don't like promoting my own things, but I also know I need to talk about it a little bit to get the word out there so that people even know what's available. Because I do have a lot of people reach out for individual coaching, and I know it's just not an affordable price point for a lot of people. And I totally get that. And it makes me really uncomfortable how expensive coaching can be. And I started the membership with that in mind, to have something that allows people to get support immediately. There's tons of on-demand resources in there, courses and individual webinars to select from, lots of PDF tools that you can download and access. Everything in the membership, it's all included in there's not like tiers of, oh, if you join at this level, it's everything's included for everyone that joins. It's only $95 a month or $950 for the year. You get 2 months free if you join for the year. If you think about, even the coffee option, if you're drinking, a couple of the Keurigs a month or a day, I mean, you could pretty much get a drip coffee maker. And I feel like those old commercials were like, it's as much as a cup of coffee a day. But seriously, it really is an affordable option. So if you're looking for a membership that is ADHD friendly, this is it. It's literally named ADHD friendly because everything I do is with that in mind. But with that in mind, I made it very sustainable. So I typically have one live session each week, sometimes two, but typically one. And I do that because I know when things are offered multiple times a week, even multiple times a day, we quickly get overwhelmed. And it actually makes it harder for us to keep up with. We get into that perfectionism. Well, if I can't make this one, well, then it's like, well, and then I'm never going again. So it's very drop-in friendly. You can join it anytime. There's not something you're going to miss, but it is when you're ready to make a change. ADHD friendly is there for you. So it's about meeting where you are, supporting you to move forward in actionable, and here's the important thing, sustainable ways. So the other thing I always promise is when you join, the membership fee will be locked for life. So as long as you remain a member without interruption, you are guaranteed that your rate will never go above $95 a month. And what's included? I want to give you just a really quick overview. Every month I do a First Friday webinar, and recordings, if you can't attend that on the live webinar, are always in there. So there's almost 30 in there now that you can go back and revisit on topics such as procrastination, how to set boundaries, how to start when you're struggling to start a task, time management, planning. There's so much in there that you can just access anytime. I also have some on-demand courses in there. I have the ADHD-friendly planning course. I have the Build Your Personal Owner's Manual course, and 3 semesters of the year-long ADHD University course. Right now, the winter, spring, and summer semester content is available on demand, and the fall semester is still continuing throughout the month of December, where we are talking about how to organize your thoughts and your things. So again, you can drop in anytime. So if you join today, you'll be able to access the remainder of the fall semester. And in January, we are kicking off a new course that is all about planning with ADHD. So if you need support planning, which so many of us do, that's what 2026 is all about, planning for your current and your future self. I'm going to teach you how to plan. I have lots of planning tools, lots of ways to approach it. And it's not one size fits all. It's about learning what works for your brain and then implementing it so you are using it and thriving more. All right, on to our topic for today, and it is the ADHD guide to small talk. So small talk is hard for a lot of people, but those with ADHD, it's even harder. A lot of times we have a lot of stress or apprehension about social situations. And a part of that is because we know that we're not very good at small talk. And one of the main reasons is it can be really boring. It's on topics that are so inane, they're just not interesting to our brain. So we tend to zone out right away, and we will resist it because we're anticipating that boredom. So research shows that for people with ADHD, we struggle with attention, working memory, processing speed. We get distractible, and we impulsively make decisions and say things, which makes those quick exchanges harder. So when you think about maintaining a back and forth for small talk, it makes it even more challenging. If we have any social anxiety or apprehension socially, we might have that compounded further by our fear of saying the wrong thing at the wrong time, or we might worry about being judged by the person we're talking with, or we get in our head self-monitoring every word we say. And this is what I really have struggled with throughout my life is the conversation will be going on and that person might be answering something I asked, but I'm in my head thinking, why did I just say it that way? Why didn't I just say this? And I'm not even hearing what they're saying. I'm just completely in my own head judging what I said or didn't say. And the other thing is that small talk often feels meaningless or exhausting to our brains. So it takes a lot of effort because it can be often really boring. And there are some common pitfalls that can make it even more challenging with ADHD. So we get stuck on a topic where maybe somebody is like, okay, like wanting to like shift and move on to something else. And we really have a hard time with that cognitive flexibility. So we want to bring it back. We might go off topic. So they're talking about something boring. And so we will shift away from boring to us, right? So we'll shift away from what the topic is to something else that has nothing to do with what they were saying. And so they might get confused or even frustrated with us because we're like, what does that have to do with? I was just talking about school and you went off to, how the apples were all bruised at the store, whatever it is. We zone out. We interrupt. This is really, really hard. We interrupt, we talk over, because first of all, at least I know for me when I do that, I'm afraid I'm going to forget what it is I want to say. And it feels so important that I say it so I don't forget that I will cut you off to say it. The other thing is we might share too much. So I always think of this in terms of like the friendship circles where unless they're in your inner circle, they may not deserve to know your truth or the thing that is kind of like a deep private part of your history. We tend to say things that in hindsight, we'll kind of look back and go, why did I share that? Or, oh my gosh, now like they're telling all these other people because I don't even know that person. And I didn't know that they, were a gossip or whatever. And we often come off feeling, whether or not it's true, we'll perceive ourselves as being socially awkward, which again, if we're not feeling confident about our ability to be able to make small talk, it can really create kind of a spiral effect of catastrophizing what's going to happen. So I want to just underline, it doesn't mean that you're bad at it. It just might mean that our brain wiring makes it harder. So we might need some strategies to be able to step out of our comfort zone and manage those little small talk situations with a little bit more ease and feeling a little bit more grounded and good about the interactions. And with the holidays, it is just a time where we have lots of opportunities to practice. So I thought this would be a great topic for right now. So I wanted to go and share some tips that can make small talk easier, especially when we have ADHD. So the first is maybe prepare 2 or 3 topics in advance that you would feel comfortable going back and forth that are pretty generic and neutral that you can use. So because we often blank out if somebody's like, so how was your week? And it's what day is it? Like, I don't remember what happened this week. The openness of that can feel too big and we don't know where. It's like our brain kind of goes, I think of it as being untethered. It goes off into the clouds, and to anchor it back down, have a few talking points. So it might be, oh, I've tried a new recipe. I had, a new thing for lunch this week, or I watched a new show. I went to the movies, like something that you've done, because those are really typical small talk kind of conversations. Like, so what's going on with you? Oh, well, I'm trying some new recipes lately, or, I'm kind of excited that the holidays are coming, and it makes me more interested in cooking when I'm not usually during the year. Something that is authentic for you, but you're able to connect to more easily because eat more easily because you thought of it in advance of being in those situations with small talk. Or you might ask them, have you discovered any good books or any good new shows that you would recommend? So it's kind of opening that up. Or maybe if you are visiting, it might be, what are the great, little like individually run coffee houses around here? So if you're not looking for like a Starbucks or, like a chain, you might ask where a really good local coffee shop is. So again, it's tapping into things that they know, but keeping it relevant into something that you're interested in. If you are like me and you might forget what these talking points are, start a little, I have an iPhone, so I would write it in my notes app, like talking points or conversation starters, where I'll just bullet point them and then I'll look at them before I go to the thing, like right before, to make them fresh in my mind again. Because if I wrote them down today and I don't need them until tonight, good chance I'm not going to remember them. So I want to have those quick reference to go back to. So that's number 1, just prepare 2 to 3 topics in advance. Number 2 is use environmental clues to help you connect to those little back and forth small talk topics. So rather than really general small talk, like, oh, how about that weather? You might look at the surroundings and ask about something that is specific to where you are. So maybe if you're in somebody's home and they have a piece of art, a picture on the wall, asking about that, asking about a collection that they have in their home, asking about if they have pets and this is a big one for me, and I don't smell any pets. I'm like, what do you do to keep your house smelling so fresh when you have, a couple of cats or a couple of dogs or whatever they have? So it can be a great time to use the context of where you are to connect to. Number 3 is to ask open-ended questions. So I learned this when my kids were young, and I'd be like, so how was school? Good. Okay. Great. So ask something that isn't a yes/no question. So you might say, what was the best movie you've seen this year? Or if somebody tells you that they, are really enjoying this pottery class they're taking, it might be, so how did you get into that? Or what made you want to start taking classes in pottery? So people love to talk about themselves. So you're asking them to tell you more instead of, what do you like? What's your hobby? Oh, pottery. Oh, yeah. Okay. It's asking them more about whatever their answer is so that it's open-ended and you get a chance to learn more. So instead of saying, hey, did you have a good week this week? It might be, what was the best thing about your week? So you're giving them a chance to tell you something that is interesting instead of answering with one word. The next strategy is to have a graceful exit ready. This is something I still really mindfully try to practice because I don't know, I'm not good at initiating and I'm not good at ending conversations. I almost feel like I'm that person that if you start the conversation with me, I almost like cling to you like a life raft because I don't want to have to start another one. But I'm also aware that that in itself is kind of socially awkward because the person may very well want to roam around. So I want to give them an out too. So if you feel stuck, or like me, my anxiety doesn't come from being stuck in the conversation. My anxiety comes from they're going to leave and I'm going to be standing here by myself again. So having an exit reduces pressure, especially if somebody's talking about something that you don't have an interest in or you just don't want to talk about. It makes you uncomfortable. Having an exit strategy allows you to do that more gracefully than just, I don't want to talk about this, which we might impulsively say because it's what we're thinking and it's true, but it isn't necessarily serving us in the moment. So maybe saying, yeah, I'm going to go and refresh my drink, or I'm going to head to the bathroom. Or it was really great chatting. I need to go and find so-and-so, or I wanted to go catch up with that person I'm seeing over there. Have something you can say that will allow you to transition out of that conversation with a little bit more ease. Okay. And so finally, my last tip is focus on listening and follow up, not thinking of the perfect thing to say. So like I said earlier, I do tend to interrupt people or talk over them if I'm thinking about what it is I want to share, especially if they're talking about like books or something that I find really interesting. I know there's a good chance I'm going to forget what it is I want to say. And so I have to really mindfully almost like, take a deep breath and allow myself to be okay with forgetting, because the reality is it doesn't matter. Like I've had enough experience doing this that if I do forget the topic, it's okay. My goal is more to have a good exchange than to share the thing that I'm afraid I'm going to forget. Because the truth is, if I interrupt and share the thing that felt so important, it's probably going to get in the way of having a good exchange in that small talk. So just focusing on what they're saying can really help. Now, I know that's a tall order and it's not easy. So give yourself some self-compassion and acknowledge like our brains do tend to race ahead. That's one of those, Ferrari brains with bicycle brakes. Like we have a really hard time slowing that down. But if we focus on the other person, it reduces that pressure on yourself to have something to share and to hold on to that information so you don't forget it. So we can really be more present. So ask something about what they're saying. So instead of switching the topic or sharing your contribution, think about what you want to know more about what they're sharing. So you can ask that. And so let's say they're like, oh, yeah, I just recently started a new job. You could say, wow, that's interesting. Tell me, what part of it do you like the most so far? Or what's the thing that you're most excited about in your new position? So you're giving them a chance to tell you more, and it's more relevant to that small talk becoming more interesting for your brain, which will make it easier for you to focus on. Remember, boredom is like kryptonite to our brain. So in thinking about asking a question that will get them talking, but that you're also interested in, it can really change that exchange into something that you're feeling really good about. So one more bonus tip that I wanted to share, and I know a lot of us do this now, but I wanted to share this in a different context. So it's to find an anchor. And I notice this has come up a lot when I listen to different podcasts like Smart List, where they'll interview actors, or they'll talk about themselves like having an anchor, like a prop. Some people will talk with a pen, they'll hold a piece of paper. I always felt better holding something when I was talking. I remember when I finally had a family of my own and kids, I just loved, like I was so much more comfortable being social if I had one of my kids on my hip, because I could interact with them and I wasn't alone and I didn't feel so awkward. And so, whether you're holding like a cup of iced tea or a little fidget in your pocket, like a touchstone or a small, like I always have a slinky on me, something that can help you feel grounded and connected. It can even be focusing on your feet on the ground and intentionally, kind of, I always think of it as like in yoga, like all five toes touch the ground, kind of feeling like with your shoes on. Nobody can see you doing it, but it helps you to ground yourself and feel like your brain is getting a signal that you are grounded and safe. And instead of like being in your head and thinking of a million things, you're thinking about how you're present, and the little fidget can help you focus. I know phones can be that. A lot of us will go to our phone. I think that's why so many of us look at our phones, especially in social situations. That it helps in the moment, but it's not going to help with the small talk. So finding something else, maybe you get like a phone case with like texture on the back of it, so you can keep it in your pocket and just feel the texture without holding the phone, that will distract you from the social interaction. So just some tips on making small talk. Take what works for you, leave the rest behind. If you have additional tips that you'd like to share, I invite you to do so at ADHD-friendly on YouTube or wherever you are checking out this podcast. This is episode 216. All right. And finally, my book for the week, it is Elevation by Stephen King. This is not brand new. It's a really short book. It's actually two books in one, but Elevation is the main, and then there's like a little short story at the end of it. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. It was a super quick read, very interesting, about a man who, no matter what he does, continues to lose weight, but he doesn't look any different. So he'll step on the scale and he's lost like 10 pounds. He looks exactly the same, and he'll eat more food and he's doing more things, but he keeps losing weight. And he's kind of done the math to figure out like, wait a minute, if this keeps going at the rate it is, I'm not going to weigh anything, in this amount of time. So it's just an interesting story about this unique situation and how this individual handles it. And it's really quick read. So I do recommend checking out. I listened to it and I did find it a really interesting listen. So there's that. And Stephen King read it himself, which my husband recommended this book to me, and we were on a plane and I started listening to it, and I turned to him, I was like, is this Stephen King reading it? Because I didn't realize that. And he was like, it is. I'm like, that is so cool. So I love when an author reads their own book. So there's that one. And finally, a quote for this week, and it is from the book Elevation. And here it is. Not a wind, not even a high exactly, but an elevation, a sense that you had gone beyond yourself and could go farther still. I just love that feeling that created. So I don't know if it's great standalone quote, but it just connects me with that feeling of going further still, like you're floating and you can go beyond where you are, almost like over the rainbow in The Wizard of Oz. Okay, that's it for this episode. Until next time, tally ho.